If there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers will file bankruptcy.
So the people who say no handouts just lined up for a handout. Now tell me why farmers in Arkansas are standing outside with their hands out again, begging Uncle Sam for money. See, when it's regular people struggling, rent too high, groceries too ridiculous, can't afford health care, the answer is always from these people: stop complaining, stop asking for handouts, and pull yourself up by your bootstrap.
I've never been as worried as I am now about whether or not my kids and grandkids will be able to carry on.
He said, I love you, Mr. Trump. I need to see the fruit of your love.
5 of my customers have committed. That's how serious that this is.
And what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now.
I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm.
After a horrible year last year where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Until the federal government steps in to save them, farmers have no one to turn to but God.
So you telling me you can't operate your farm off of hatred? You telling me you can't grow those crops off of misogyny and bigotry? No, something don't sound right about that. You trying to tell me that you are worried about your generational farm and the future generations of the thing that you built based off the words of a lying, corrupt con man cheat who has a history of being a lying, corrupt con man cheat? That don't sound right. That can't be as simple as that. You telling me that you cannot move your products because a dude with a terrible track record of running businesses, 6 bankruptcies, bankrupt casinos. You understand how hard it is to bankrupt a casino? You took the advice of that guy over the more qualified woman simply because she was a black woman. You took the word of a lying, corrupt con man cheat with 6 bankruptcies over the more qualified and the very, very well legislated Joe Biden, and you're surprised that you have to worry about the future of your farm and saying that you will go bankrupt. And now you want the socialism that you said you hated, that you didn't want students to get, but you absolutely need it right now. You telling me that you can't operate your farm off of mass deportations? Say it ain't so. Say it. Come on, it can't be that simple. Listen, I have zero sympathy for y'all. Absolutely zero. Let me just say this. The fact that you took the word of a lying, corrupt con man, racist cheat with zero track record of being good at business tells me you got exactly what you deserve. And the craziest thing of all this is that how the hell you sitting up here praying to God when you literally voted for a demon?
You voted for the tariff guy. And now Arkansas farmers want a handout. They want federal assistance. This poor ass red state that votes Republican every freaking year, they want a handout. You damn socialists. I guess you're finding out that racism sure is expansive, huh? Fucking dumbasses.
Yeah, sure. Racism is very expensive, and that this is what happens when people vote for policies meant to hurt other people. They celebrated tariffs, think it was gonna hurt China, but they only ended up hurting their own livelihood. So let's have a look. Please like and hype the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, alright? Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I need you blue state liberals to stop calling the farmers who voted for their own personal financial ruin stupid. It's infantilizing. They aren't stupid. To actually manage a farm effectively requires insane depths of knowledge in math, science, logistics. These people aren't dumb. But what they are learning, for I think in some cases the first time in their lives, is how expensive racism is. They heard Trump loud and clear when he said that he would deport their labor force and that he would tariff essentially all of the inputs they need to run their facilities. And they absolutely heard him when he claimed over and over again that the US gave too much to the world in aid, and therefore those aid streams, which most often include the food these farmers grow, would be cut. They heard it all. They just didn't believe it. They thought this was just Trump 1.0 and there would be enough adults in the room to say, hey, this is reckless. We can't do this because it will dismantle the economy. Yeah, a lot of farmers were hurt during the first Trump administration. Thanks to his reckless trade wars, particularly with China, a lot of them went bankrupt. And the bailouts that originally happened under Trump's first term didn't mostly even go to these small-scale farmers. It ended up going to big agribusiness. And I have a feeling, if past is prologue, we're going to see that happen again if bailouts happen at all. Because the reality is these people do not actually want to save these small-scale farms. People in this admin, like J.D. Vance, very specifically invested in things like Acre Trader. Their goal is for these farmers to go bankrupt so that they can consolidate, buy up huge swaths of their land, and make a fortune. So I'm not going to lie to you, there is very little incentive for anybody in this administration to actually give these farmers a bailout, no matter how angry and white and male they are. I doubt there are any farmers listening to this at the moment, but the billionaires do not care about you. They actually just want to take your stuff. So even if a bailout does come, and I doubt an effective one will, but if it does, it is going to be meager enough to keep these people in dire financial straits. Because the goal of a lot of these billionaires and investment firms is to make them desperate enough to sell. So you can say goodbye to small-scale family farms, that's for sure. What's kind of funny about this is that Let's Go Brandon tried to bail you out for real. And that's probably the last time anyone will, so.
Today in Trump's America, small-town farms in Arkansas are begging for welfare. They can't sell their soybeans to China. Who knew that so many farmers were making $10,000 an acre from China? Who knew? But instead of pulling up their bootstraps, they're going for welfare. They're going for subsidies. They're going for American handouts. Just mere months after saying, we don't support welfare programs, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, cut everything to these LGBTQIARSTUV people. Pull up your bootstraps, Arkansas. Sell something Americans want to buy. Talk to your man Donnie Darko about the Department of War, because hell, they might be coming to your town soon. He might be bringing the National Guard to Arkansas and you won't have any farmland left anyway. Look, folks, Donnie Darko is destroying America, and if you can't see it, it's a part of the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025. Go look it up. It's a blueprint. Donnie Darko is following it to a T.
Listen to me. Racism is the poison in Arkansas soil. That's right, racism. Last week, hundreds of Arkansas farmers stood in a room and broke down in prayer in front of their elected officials. They weren't praying for rain, guys. They weren't praying for sunshine. They weren't even praying for a bumper crop. They were praying because their farms, their family land, their way of life is collapsing under tariffs and trade wars. And here's the truth. Those tariffs, that trade war, that whole playbook was born out of racism. Farmers were told the story that punishing foreigners would make America strong again. They were told to clap when leaders wagged their finger at China, Mexico, or whoever else they decided was the villain of the week. They were told it was patriotism, but really it was racism dressed up in red, white, and blue, and farmers bought it. They cheered it. They co-signed it. And now they are the ones paying the bill. Look at soybeans. Without tariffs, U.S. beans leaving New Orleans are cheaper than Brazil. But with tariffs, suddenly Brazil is winning. And who did that? Not God, not nature, not fate, your own leaders waving a racist flag and calling it strength. And the farmers who clapped for it are now on their knees begging for help. This isn't the first time. History is packed with proof that racism bankrupts the very people it fuels. Jim Crow didn't just brutalize black citizens. It strangled the Southern economy for generations. Segregation didn't just rob black kids of opportunity. It robbed the entire South of progress, creativity, and prosperity. The Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s, it cut off immigrant labor that helped build America, leaving industries starved. Japanese internment during World War II, well, that destroyed businesses, farms, and families, and the whole economy bore the cost. Every single time America lets racism drive policy, the poison spreads. It never just hits the target. It always circles back. And now here we are again. Farmers in Arkansas prayed out loud last week because they're broke. And they know it. And some of them voted for this mess. Some of them cheered when the tariffs went into place because they thought it would put others in their place. But you can't hate and expect to harvest prosperity. You cannot poison your neighbor's well without eventually drinking from it yourself. So let's call this what it is. Racism is the poison in your soil. It's why your crops can't compete. It's why your barns are empty. It's why you bowed your head in front of men in suits who don't care about you at all beyond your vote. Racism doesn't just starve the people you think are your enemies. It starves you. Arkansas, this is your wake-up call. You can pray all you want, but you have to face the truth. Nothing changes unless you do. Racism isn't strength, it's weakness. It's not power, it's poison. It's killing your farms, your family, and your future. Please wake up.
Arkansas farmers are publicly having their fuck around and find out moment. About a quarter to 1/3 farms are said to go bankrupt within the next year. And while I never wish harm or bad things upon people, good, honest people, we do need accountability. And this is just the beginning of it. Also, I just want to say, it shows how fucking weak they are, because they're offing themselves too. They want to act all big and bad all the time. They were just privileged. You get a little ounce of trouble, you're taking your own life. God damn, waiting on the government for your funds, counting on them, thinking they're gonna save you? Well, guess what? This was in the plan, because now all the farmlands are being sold on Acre Trader to Big Corp, and not these are family-owned farms that have been passed down for generations that are going to have to fight, that are going away. And they just gave their power to the 1% to cause more harm to us, because the animals that they raise, the farms that they set up, are not good for us. They're not treating the animals correctly. They don't care about the fucking cycles of the universe or the laws of the fucking universe. They don't care, because they're parasites and they're here to suck you dry until there's nothing left.
Farmers in Arkansas are crying out to the feds for stimulus money like it's open mic night. And look, I get it, because times are hard everywhere. When you plant your crops, raise your cattle, take on the risks of farming, I mean, wasn't that a personal business decision? So why is it on me and you to make sure that decision keeps paying out? Because see, when you and I make bad decisions, government doesn't cut us a check to make it right for us. Now, let's connect the dots here a little bit. These are the same people voting for the same politicians who say government is the problem. Yet as soon as the tractors stop running and their profits dry up, government magically turns into a solution for them. Ain't that funny and ironic? The question is, do we owe farmers any help? Or do they need to practice what they preach? Figure it out. Tighten that belt. Leave taxpayers out of it. Because last I checked, it's really not our problem to fix somebody else's gamble.
I tell you what, if the federal government caves in and gives these whining white farmers in Arkansas and all over the country welfare checks that they are crying and begging for because they are dealing with the consequences of their vote, then I hope that the National Black Farmers Association gets together and files a class action lawsuit against the government, just like those white farmers did in 2021 in order to block stimulus aid to black farmers. They sure did. They filed a lawsuit in 2021, white farmers, including those in Arkansas, to bar the federal government from giving a $4 billion stimulus package to black farmers and farmers of color because they felt it was reverse discrimination and it was unconstitutional. Well, if the federal government turns around and gives them money, then yes, National Black Farmers Association, please get together and file the biggest lawsuit that you can against the federal government. I've tagged John Boyd, who is the founder of the National Black Farmers Association, in this video. You all please go follow him, learn more about the National Black Farmers Association and how you can help them fight for economic justice for our black farmers. Thanks, y'all.
China was one of the biggest buyers of US soybeans, and farmers depended on them. But once Trump introduced the tariffs, China stopped buying from them and looked for other sellers like Argentina. And once the supply chains are gone, they might take years or even decades to come back. And the people celebrated tariffs without having enough knowledge about tariffs. Tariff is usually a tax passed down to businesses, and the businesses pass down that cost to the consumers. That's why the cost of machinery, fuel, and fertilizer is costing farmers more, They are being forced to pay more for these equipment, and that's how they end up losing farms that's been in their families for generations, because there's shrinking profit and now they're paying more to buy equipment. And also farmers, they celebrated mass deportation without thinking about their livelihood. And agriculture in America has always depended on immigrant labor for decades. Now with mass deportations, their farms are now struggling to find enough workers to harvest the crops, or to keep the operations running. And this is why racism and hatred is very expensive. When you vote for policies designed to hurt other people, those same policies eventually come back to you and hurt you too, Economic consequences don't care who you voted for. They affect everybody. And the people need to understand that elections are not just about defeating your opponent. Elections are about choosing the economic decisions that affect real lives, And that's why people should look beyond fear, anger, or even promises of revenge, Ask yourself if a policy is going to improve your life, or even improve your community. Voting comes with responsibility. Decisions made at the ballot box, they eventually show up in your wallet, in workplaces, and in your communities. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.